Well, the first real test for Pitt basketball is on deck. We got a lot to talk about with that game tonight. And then an interesting comment from Bub Means yesterday. We'll get a little basketball and a little bit of football, a little bit of Bub on both sides of the river on today's Morning Pitt on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. All right, it's Wednesday, it's game day, and it's Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. You know the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. The most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. You find it all at Panther-Lair.com and message boards to interact with hundreds and thousands of other Pitt fans all day, every day. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. is where you get the Pitt coverage, and then the message boards, you hang out with other Pitt fans. It's the best online community of Pitt fans you're going to find. And if you're looking for somewhere to talk about the game tonight or talk about everything else going on in Pitt sports, that's the place to do it. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, and our YouTube channel here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It's where we put all of our video content. We have post-game videos, press conferences, highlights, these Morning Pitt videos Monday through Friday. We have our weekly live show every Wednesday night. We'll be doing that tonight at 8:30 p.m. It's going to be great because tonight's live show is actually going to be like a pregame show for the basketball game. Pitt, Florida, scheduled to tip off at 9:30. Yes, and it won't actually tip off at 9:30, but we'll take you up until 9:30 so you're ready for the game. It'll be a lot of fun. It's a live show, so you can get in the comment section there, the chat, and you can put your comments or your questions. We'll interact, have a little conversation. Jim Hammett will be there from Panther-Lair.com on the live stream. He and I, we'll be talking. You'll be talking. We'll all have a big conversation. It'll be a lot of fun. And we do it right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And then, of course, Saturday after the Duke game, we'll have our final live post-game show of the football season. Since it is the final football game of the season for Pitt, we'll be live after the game. We'll do it right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com for the Panther-Lair post-game. Once again, you can get in the chat screen and do your comments and questions. Put those in there, and we'll interact. We'll have a conversation back and forth. It'll be a lot of fun. To do that, it always is a lot of fun, and certainly looking forward to it on Saturday afternoon. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of our video content or any of our live streams or post-game shows or anything like that, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You do that, and then you can turn on alerts and get notifications sent right to your phone so you never miss any of our content here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And while you're at it, like this video. We'd appreciate that as well. So Pitt, Florida tonight, first real test for the Panthers after a stellar start. Not without their warts, not without their areas to improve, but that's what you would expect after 4 games. There are going to be some areas of improvement, but it's hard to get too down about anything this Pitt basketball team has done so far. They've been outstanding, probably better than any of us expected. And I see some very optimistic Pitt basketball fans on Twitter. Obviously, on the message boards, we have a lot of optimistic Pitt basketball fans. I think even the most optimistic among us would not have predicted a start like what we've seen and performances like what we've seen. I think the expectations were high for Bub Carrington. Were they 18-5.5? After 4 games, probably not. I think expectations were high for Ish Leggett. Were they 15-8? After 4 games, probably not. Was Blake? Did you expect Blake Hinson to be averaging 20 points per game after 4 games? Maybe, maybe not. But I think those guys. I think almost everyone on this team, at least through the starting 9 or so, and I would say they legitimately can go 9 deep. I think they've all exceeded expectations. Maybe you would say Zach Austin has not quite lived up to the expectations that at least that some of us, myself included, had prior to the season. I think Jorge Diaz-Graham is still waiting for him to kind of blow up a little bit. Guillermo Diaz-Graham had his blow-up game against Jacksonville with the double-double, but you're still waiting for Jorge to really settle in. He's 4 of 7 from 3. I think you're looking to get more 3-pointers out of him. I think my prediction My bold prediction for the season was that the Diaz-Graham twins would combine for 45 three-pointers. They've got 8 right now as I look at the stat sheet. 4 of 9 for Guillermo, 4 of 7 for Jorge. We're well on our way. I mean, averaging 2 per game. They should clear 45 without too much trouble. But I think, pretty much 1 through 9, again, with maybe the exception of Zach Austin and Jorge Diaz-Graham, you've exceeded expectations. I would say. Even down to Will Jeffers and his contributions. And it's pretty remarkable. And I was talking to somebody else about this earlier this week. It's pretty remarkable how deep this team looks right now. Because if I go 1 through 9 through your starters of Bub Carrington, Ish Leggett, Zach Austin, Blake Hinson, Federico, and then your guys coming off the bench, the guard, Jalen Lowe as the primary guard off the bench, Will Jeffers is kind of a wing off the bench, Jorge Diaz-Graham is a wing off the bench, and Guillermo Diaz-Graham is a center off the bench. You go through those 9 guys, I don't think there's an obvious candidate in there to see his minutes get cut. I think there will be games where Jorge maybe doesn't get as many minutes, or Guillermo doesn't get as many, maybe get as many minutes, but, Jalen Lowe is going to play a ton this year. I mean, he's averaging 16 and a half minutes per game. I don't expect that number really to drop off. Will Jeffers is averaging 17 minutes per game. I think they really like what Will Jeffers is bringing. This is a team that legitimately looks 9 deep, or looks like it is legitimately 9 deep, and will continue to roll 9 deep until further notice. And that's pretty remarkable, because I think even some of the best Pitt teams we've seen over the years I don't remember too many that were able to go that deep and look like they could sustain. I mean, they might go that deep in some of the early season games, but usually the rotation would pare down. And I think we would see Jamie Dixon do that. He would go 8 or 9 or 10 deep, during some of the early mid-major games. And then by the time you got to the Big East, that rotation would pare down to about 7, sometimes 8. This team, I think, legitimately can go 9. And that's a testament to, I think, the work that these players put in the offseason. Because, Will Jeffers looks much better than he did in the past. You know what I mean? And he has played himself into the being a key piece of the rotation coming off the bench. And I think the Diaz-Graham twins look like they've improved. Again, I think you're kind of waiting on that breakout game from Jorge, but you got it from Guillermo. I think Federico looks like he took a step forward. Jalen Lowe, I think, is a key piece of the guard rotation. I mean, he is the guard rotation right now. It's basically him, backing up Carrington and Leggett. But it's impressive to see the depth they've got right now. And I think some of that depth they're going to need it in this game tonight against Florida. Now, the Gators are 3-1. They lost to Virginia. They beat Florida State. So they've got a couple of games against high major opponents, which Pitt does not have. They've been a little bit more battle tested, which Pitt has not. And I think that creates a lot of sort of uncertainty about what this game is going to look like and how it's going to go. I think the last I saw, Florida was favored by a couple points. Nothing too major. But I think you probably would feel like you have a better sense of who Florida is than you have of Pitt right now. And I think a lot of us are very optimistic and very bullish on this Pitt team. But the reality is they haven't played anybody. Florida's schedule is better because out of their 4 games, they've faced 2 high majors. Pitt has not faced any high majors. They've been beating up on North Carolina A&T, on Binghamton, on Florida Gulf Coast, and on Jacksonville. And Florida Gulf Coast, they only beat by 12. That was a close game, a competitive game, where they gave up a lot in the paint. And you're going against a team in Florida that has a couple of legitimate forwards, a couple of legitimate big guys, with the center, Micah Handlogton. I was just double checking on how to pronounce that. He's averaging 8.5 rebounds per game and 10 points. And then the big forward, Tyrese Samuel, is averaging 12 and 3.5, or 12 and 8.5. Sorry, 12.3 points and 8.5 rebounds per game. And Handlogton and Samuel really, they're not the keys to this thing. I think Florida is still very much a guard-led team, but they are cleaning up on the glass. And you see Florida being one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country, which is an area where Pitt has done very well also. But again, you look at the level of competition. You say, okay, well, Florida has established itself as one of the best rebounding teams in the country. They hold a 15, rebound advantage, 14 rebound advantage per game over their opponents. They're killing it on the offensive glass. Handlogton has 19 offensive rebounds in 4 games. Samuel has 13. They're cleaning up on the offensive boards. And Pitt is as well. Pitt's doing really well. I think they're top 10 in the country in rebounding margin. They're out rebounding their opponents by 20. But you look at who they played, and that level of competition question comes up, and you say, well, we don't really know who they are or how good they are. And so they're going to get a challenge tonight. They're going to get a challenge against Florida. They're going to get a challenge, I think, in the backcourt and the front court, because while we talk about Samuel and Handlogton, Florida's also got Walter Clayton Jr. and Riley Kugel at guard, and both guys have some experience. They played. Will Richard is in there as well as another guard who's got experience, and so it's an interesting challenge. It'll be a good challenge for Bub Carrington on the perimeter. It'll be a good challenge for Ish Leggett, who I think has been pretty good on a lot of fronts, but he's going to be challenged tonight. But that challenge in the front court, I think that's going to be the biggest one to watch, is how Federico, Blake Hinson, Guillermo Diaz-Graham, and Will Jeffress, to some extent Jorge, although I think they tend to use Jorge a little bit more as a 3 and Will more as a 4, but just seeing how those guys can hold up and rebound against the best rebounding team they've faced yet. Now, Jacksonville went into that game as one of the best rebounding teams in the country that game last week, and Pitt out rebounded them. What was the final number? I have the stats. 51-29. So they were able to take care of business against a team that had done very well rebounding up until this point. But I think this is the biggest, like I say, it's the biggest challenge yet. And somebody pointed this out on the message boards. I think there's going to be an opportunity against this Florida team because of how they attack the glass offensively, that if they're all crashing the glass on offense and you're able to grab a defensive rebound, you should have a good opportunity for an outlet pass and fast break transition. And so Tyrese Samuel, Micah Handlogton, good big forwards and centers, get them out and make them run. Because Federico, Guillermo Diaz-Graham, those guys can run. They are bigs and they can run. And so put a little pressure on Florida. Get out in transition. Try to push the pace a little bit. And then largely continue doing what you've been doing. I think the key for Pitt is just to keep being Pitt. And who Pitt is right now is a team that's doing a great job getting the ball to its shooters, shooting pretty well. Pitt as a team is 37.8% from 3. I think they can even be better than that, but they're 49% from the floor overall. So they're shooting well. Obviously, the free throw percentage is something that's got to keep coming up. They're up to 64% now, which is actually an improvement over where they were. But continue to get after it on the boards. But Blake, you know who your guys are. Blake Hinson's your guy. Bub Carrington is your guy. Let Ishmael Leggett do what Ishmael Leggett does. These guys have established themselves in the way they can work together through these first 4 games. Just because the level of competition increases doesn't mean that they have to change the way they play. I don't want them to change the way that they play. They got to be a little cleaner. They got to be a little tighter. They don't have as much margin for error because they're playing a tougher level of competition. But the things that they do are pretty good things to be able to do. The things they do well are pretty good things to be able to do well. And I think if they can keep doing those things well, they have a chance to go out and make a statement tonight. Now, I don't know if beating Florida is going to get you ranked or whatever. I don't know if beating Florida and whoever you face on Friday will get you ranked. I don't know. I kind of don't care about that right now. I care, early season football rankings, college football rankings don't mean a lot. Early season college basketball rankings mean even less. It would be cool and good recognition for Pitt to get their name to show up in the top 25. It doesn't matter to me, maybe once we get into December or January, get into conference play, and then you really find out who's good and who's not. So I don't know if winning tonight, winning on Friday would get Pitt ranked. But what I do know is if you can go out and beat a power conference opponent, you're going to get some respect. Other people are going to take notice. And that's the opportunity that's out there for Pitt tonight. I'm excited to see it. And we'll have, like I say, a full pregame show for you tonight, 8:30 to 9:30 right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I want to switch over to football for a moment. Just the second half of the show, or it's a little bit less than half, final 5 minutes or so. So we talked to Bub Means yesterday, Pitt wide receiver, Bub Means, and talked about a lot of topics. Bub is great, as everybody knows. Bub's a lot of fun to talk to, and we talked to him about a lot of stuff. Talked to him for about 7 minutes, but at one point he was asked kind of about the future. All right, now Bub Means has a year of eligibility remaining. He could come back next year as a super senior, but he participated on senior night. He was one of 4 guys. There were 17 guys total who participated on senior night. 4 of them could come back next year. They have the eligibility remaining to do so. Bub Means walked, but he's got that year left. So he was asked about the future, about the importance of winning this Duke game to go 4-8 as opposed to 3-9, what it could mean for next year, what it could mean for this team in the offseason, and what it could mean moving forward. Here's the question and answer and some follow-up question I want you to listen to, because I'm still trying to figure it out.
You have eligibility for next season, right?
Yeah, I have another year eligibility.
Do you ever find yourself looking forward to next season because you can fix what happened this season?
Like I said, I don't really look forward into next season. I ain't even thought about what I'm gonna do after the season. Like, I haven't even put no thoughts into it. So actually, I'm just looking forward to getting 1-0 this week. Like, if I can go 4-8 instead of 3-9, that's my whole goal right now. Like, that's the only goal I can think of. Only thing on my mind. You feel what I'm saying? Like, making a play, help my team get the win.
It is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
4-3 is one number, but it's still.
Yeah, it's still like 3-9. I don't care what nobody say. 4-8, it looks a lot better than 3-9. So we just trying to get that dub.
It absolutely does. But one thing also is that you guys finishing strong can set up next year strong.
Right.
Is that very much in your mind that you want to be part of this next year to say, hey, that last year was just a bump in the road?
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I just want to be able to finish strong, and then next year we can shock the world. Like, this whole team, we have so much talent on this team. I feel like at quarterback, on the line, at skill positions, DB, linebacker, defensive line, whatever you want to call it, we have so much talent on this team. So I feel like this year was just we had our ups and downs. We faced a lot of adversity, but next year I feel like if we can just win out and bring some momentum into next year, I feel like we can do something special next year.
So you're planning to be with the team next year?
Oh yes, sir. Like I told you, I don't even think too far into it. I still got school left. You feel me, stuff like that. So I don't even think too far ahead into the future. I told you I ain't made no decisions. I'm thinking about 1-0 this week against Duke, and then you feel me.
Okay, so I'll put it this way. I don't know what Bub means. Huh? You like that one? Quote, I want to be able to finish strong, and then next year we can shock the world. This whole team, we have so much talent on this team. Actually, let's go back to the first question, the question from Jerry. All right, and Bub says, quote, I don't really look forward into next season. I haven't even thought about what I'm going to do after the season. I haven't even put no thoughts into it. So I'm just looking forward to 1-0 this week. If I can go 4-8 instead of 3-9, that's my whole goal right now. That's the only goal I can think of, only thing on my mind, making a play and helping my team get the win. Jerry says, oh, well, 4-8, better than 3-9, right? Says, yeah, I don't care what nobody says. 4-8 looks a lot better than 3-9, so we're just trying to get that dub. And then Chris Carter, you hear, ask a question about being part of it next year. And Bub says, quote, I want to be able to finish strong, and then next year we can shock the world. This whole team, we have so much talent on this team. I feel like at quarterback, on the line, at skill positions, DB, linebacker, defensive line, whatever you want to call it, we have so much talent on this team. So I feel like this year, which we had our ups and downs, we faced a lot of adversity, but next year I feel like if we could just win out and bring some momentum into next year, I feel like we can do something special next year, end quote. That sounds like he's going to be on the team next year, right? It sounds like he intends to return, which would be a good thing for Pitt. Bub Means coming back next year would be a good thing for Pitt. So Chris Carter follows up and says, so you plan to be on the team next year? Quote, oh, yes, sir. I don't even think too far into it. I still have school left and stuff like that, so I don't even think too far into the future. I told you, I'm not making no decisions. I'm thinking about 1-0 this week against Duke, end quote. So you're going to be on the team next year? Oh, yes, sir. And then proceed to talk about how you haven't made a decision, you don't know what you're doing next year, and you're not sure. I gotta say, Bub Means walking on senior day, maybe feel like maybe his Pitt career has come to an end. That little conversation there. Typically, when guys talk about it that way in those kinds of terms and say, I haven't even really thought about the future. I don't really know. All these guys have thought about the future. All of them. All of them have thought about the future. And usually the ones who say I haven't thought about the future are already planning about how they're going to leave. I mean, that's just from experience. I could be completely wrong. Bub Means could choose to come back. Bub Means should probably choose to come back. I don't think Bub Means intends to enter the transfer portal. My guess is that Bub Means is thinking about the NFL. Now, I'm speculating here. I'm assuming that I know what this young man is thinking. But going off his words and the fact that he participated in senior day, I'm sort of looking at it like you're thinking about going to the NFL. Now, Bub Means, I think most people have caught up to this. But Bub Means in the last 7 games has been pretty awesome. He's lived up to what all that hype, the Bub Means hype train that I got off after the first 4 games. Well, I'm back on, and I've been back on for the last 7 because he's been outstanding. Even if including that Virginia Tech game when he had a 75-yard touchdown pass. We're going to include that because over the course of the last 7 games, he has caught 29 passes for 565 yards and 5 touchdowns in 7 games. That's 19.4 yards per reception, by the way. But if you take that and project it over the course of a 12-game season, if you take that pace over 7 games and project it over a 12-game season, he ends up with, his 12-game totals will be 49 catches, 968 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That's an awesome season. That's a really good season. And that's the pace that Bub Means has been playing on for the last 7 games. I feel like in the last 7 games, and it hasn't all been there, it hasn't been 100%, it hasn't always been consistent, but I feel like in the last 7 games, Bub Means has shown the potential that he's got for as a receiver, as a football player. I think he's shown some of that. He's been able to tap into it. Maybe for the first time in his career, the most consistent stretch in his career, he's been able to tap into it. He's been the player that I thought he could be and thought he would be. But has he done enough to go to the NFL? I'm not so sure about that. Yet when we hear those quotes, it sort of seems like he might be thinking it. Now, I don't want to go too far down the road about, speculating on someone's intentions, what they plan to do, but sort of piecing it together, I'm not so sure we'll see Bub Means in a Pitt uniform next year. I don't think he's going to transfer anywhere. I think if he decides not to go try the if he decides not to try the pro route, then I think he'll be back at Pitt. I'm just not sure he'll make that decision, but we'll see. We'll find out. I imagine we'll find out next week. By next week at this time, by next Wednesday, I wouldn't be surprised if we know the fates of a number of these guys. There's no bowl game to prepare for, nothing to opt out of. I think they'll announce it pretty quick. Maybe they'll wait a little bit, and do a little research, get some feedback. But my guess is most of these guys probably know what they're going to do. If they're going to leave, they're going to stay, they're going to transfer, try the NFL, or whatever it may be. I guess we'll find out. But I got to say, I didn't come away from that conversation feeling more encouraged about Bub Means' likelihood of returning, which is too bad because I think he has been really good over the last 7 games. So that pace would actually probably be better if I just did the last 6 games because he only had 1 catch, 7 games ago in the Virginia Tech game, but he had 75 yards and a touchdown. So I like what that does to the stats and the pace. But anyway, look, I don't know what time you're watching this video, but in a number of hours from now, we are going to be live 8:30 p.m. tonight for the Panther-Lair show, the weekly live show that we always do, and it's going to be a pregame show leading into Pitt, Florida. Looking forward to that game. Should be an exciting one to watch and a good test for Pitt, an opportunity to make a bit of a statement. And then tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I don't know where the time goes. End of the season, Thanksgiving is all here. We'll still have a morning pit for you and plenty of content at Panther-Lair.com. So don't think you're not going to get your pit fill in addition to getting your turkey fill and everything else that you're getting tomorrow. Your pit fix and your turkey fix, your fill of pit and your fill of turkey. You're going to get all of it tomorrow right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com and Panther-Lair.com. So thanks for tuning in today. We appreciate it. Hope you've had a great week so far. Enjoy your Wednesday. It's the biggest party night of the year for the kids. But we got Pitt basketball to watch. So that's what we're going to do. We'll see you tonight for the live show at 8:30, and we'll talk to you tomorrow for the Morning Pit. Right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.